Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leadership Ripples with Leah Fink. This is our first episode. I'm Leah. It's wonderful to meet you, and I'm so excited you're going to be joining me on this journey. So, today I just wanted to introduce the show a little bit, share a little bit more about what you're going to be hearing over the next series of weeks and months as we really dive into leadership. So, the first thing I'm going to share is a little bit about the name. So, why Leadership Ripples? Now, when you're a leader in an organization, at work, on a team, whichever way, you are creating tons of ripples every day. Every action that you take has an impact on the people around you. And not only on those people, not only on your organization, but even on the people that they interact with. When you're a leader in a business, you go and you have an impact on your employees, they go home. That impact translates to their wife, their kids, their husband, all of the people they interact with. And so it's so critical as a leader to be looking at what kind of ripples we want to be creating and make sure that those are aligned with the great intentions that we have. So let's go into this metaphor just a little bit more. If you think of yourself standing on the shoreline of a lake, you pick up a rock, and that's the intention you have. That's your goal. That's your desired outcome. And you throw it into the lake. That's whatever actions you take as a leader. And as it hits the lake, of course, you're creating ripples. Now, we all know those ripples to be great things, and we have these intentions and hopes about all the great ways we're going to impact people. And unfortunately, sometimes that's not how it works out. But we usually spend so much time focused on the goals that we had, the hopes that we had, that we don't always look at the impacts that we might be making out in people's lives, out in the organization. So what I've found in my work and what I really want to focus on with this show is actually the shoreline that we stand on. So to go deeper into this, you can think of the shoreline as all of the skills that you have as a leader. Maybe they're really high quality skills. Maybe they're just developing. Maybe you didn't have a lot of support getting those skills. But that shoreline that you stand on, if it's a nice, strong, stable shoreline, is probably going to give you good ripples. It probably means you're going to have a positive effect on those people around you. But when that shoreline is not as stable, when you don't have those skills, when you're not sure when to use the right skills, it doesn't matter how good that intention, that rock you have is, the ripples you make are probably going to affect people in a negative way, which is the last thing we want. And this is really sad because I've worked with so many leaders who deeply care about the people they work with. They deeply care about their staff. And at the same time, they are definitely not having a positive impact. People are going home stressed, burnt out. And of course, that does translate to their family and how healthy their family is feeling. It translates to how much they're able to enjoy the rest of their life. And ultimately, that of course translates to them wanting to leave the organization, to not doing good work and increasing that stress even more in the office. So just these ripples continue all throughout that. Now, I've found that there's 6 components of a shoreline that will make it stable and healthy or unstable and not as healthy. And those are really what we're going to focus on with this show. So the first one is just this individualistic dogma that we have in North America, around the world. And this is obviously beyond the workplace, but we see a lot of things as an individual's success or failure, as an individual's fault. So in the office, this might be, oh yeah, that guy made a mistake, or that employee is a problem, or it's this person's fault. And although individuals do have actions that they take, of course, that are having impacts, if we look at it with people being the problem, how do you solve a person? How do you actually address that? And instead, when we can start to look at systems, are there things that that person is responding to, situations that they couldn't help that they have to work within? That's how we're actually able to make change, because you can solve a situation. You can solve that kind of problem when we look at it from a systemic perspective. The next thing we're going to be talking a lot about, and I love talking about this, is this unconscious or conscious and effective use of power. Now, some people get really uncomfortable even at the word power. You might not want to think about it or talk about it. But ultimately, being in a leadership role means that there is a certain influence or ability to create change that you have in that role. You've been given by taking part as a leader. And when we are not conscious of that, maybe we want to shy away from it. Maybe we over embrace it a little bit. then that's not able to actually create that kind of influence that you want. You're going to end up accidentally misusing it, maybe harming people unintentionally. And we can be really clear. It can be a really ethical thing to use our power in a really meaningful and intentional, conscious way. The next thing we're going to talk about probably will not surprise anyone, but ineffective communication. Everyone everywhere has experienced some bad communication, myself included. And one of the ways that I see it a lot in workplaces that I work with is just in having some communication skills, but not knowing when to apply the right skill in the right situation. How should we be communicating right now? Are we talking about a task? Are we talking about the meaning behind it? Are we talking about our values? And how do those all interact? How do they all play together? Because if not, people just get frustrated and the problems continue. That kind of leads into the next piece, which is actually how much we tend to act on our assumptions. We assume that someone knows something, that they maybe agree with us on a situation, that the action they took was for X goal versus Y goal, and does that align with what we think or not? And the problem is we base a lot of our actions on these assumptions that we made without having the time to clarify what their perspective of a situation is, what their need in that situation was. And so taking that ability to clarify those assumptions and actually find alignment, that means we are actually moving towards the same goal with the same understanding of it. Kind of inherent and woven into this is this piece of tension. Tension is going to exist for people. We have disagreements, and unhealthy tension exists everywhere. And I don't just mean unhealthy tension as in we're going to yell at each other, we're going to swear at each other, but unhealthy tension also can mean I am disagreeing with you, but I'm not going to say anything. Maybe it doesn't feel fully safe. Maybe I'm just not comfortable with that personally. I'm not going to give you that feedback. And what it means is that just everyone stays at this low level of annoyance and frustration with each other, but nothing actually moves forward. No problems get solved. So we can take that and turn it into more productive tension that starts to move us forward. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about connection and disconnection, and not just connection with each other, although obviously leadership is going to involve a lot of that, but also disconnection with ourselves and our own understanding of how we show up. Some people call it emotional intelligence, which is definitely an umbrella term for what we're going to talk about, but really understanding the whys of how we're showing up, how we choose to do that as leaders. So if any of that interested you and you thought, I would like to learn a little bit more about some of those topics, or you want to engage in discussion with them, I'll invite you to join the show. We are going to be live every week at 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And then this will be in podcast form as well, Fridays at 9 a.m. So you can listen however you choose to. If you think that you have a story or a question about leadership that would be a great example for other people, that's actually what this show is going to be. We're not just going to talk about these, but I'm actually going to be using real life experiences from leaders about the situations they're in. So we can answer questions, we can discuss how you might handle a situation. If you have a story that you'd like to share, a question that you would love answered, a little bit support on, then you'll see the link in the description below of where you can input your story. And then we can talk about it on the show. Everything remains anonymous. I'm not going to share identifying details. Anyway, I'm so excited. Thank you for listening today. I look forward to our many discussions in the future. And I hope you keep joining Leadership Ripples with Leah Fink.